by trying to silence and punish others for being a bully, making insulting comments. The ability to exercise emotional regulation, mental toughness, and resilience is vanishing. Nobody wants their loved ones to be bullied. Nobody wants their loved ones to be hurt. But words don't always have to hurt us. And that's where all of this is flawed. And what I think is ironic is that these people that are so anti-bullying use bullying as a weapon against others because they think that it'll be hurtful, because they were not taught resiliency against words. But I was. We need to talk about something, and it's not going to be easy. The anti-bullying campaign was a progressive liberal failure. And before you say anything, just hear me out. We all know that we're all at our most formative years during childhood and adolescence. This is when our brain development is still highly active. Our neuroplasticity is very high. And there's tons of videos and books and other forms of resources that are out there that can help people learn how to parent their children, to be compassionate, have critical thinking skills, have empathy, have manners, and all of that. This is not about that. This is about the counterproductive failure of the anti-bullying movement and how it has negatively affected young people across the country.
2-year-old Rebecca Sedgwick is now speaking out for the first time since the charges against 2 girls accused of bullying her daughter to death have been dropped. Now she says she's planning to sue their families.
So today, with her attorney Matt Morgan, they kicked off a campaign to pass Rebecca's Law, an anti-bullying law that specifically lays out the criminal punishment for bullies.
I have not seen anyone talk about this, and I'm kind of surprised because I think it's pretty obvious that things are unfolding in ways that were never intended. What this video is about, ultimately, is resiliency. So what is resiliency? According to a study published in the NIH, resiliency is a multi-systemic dynamic process of successful adaptation or recovery in the context of a threat or a risk. Resiliency in children and later adulthood is negatively associated with depression, anxiety, and trauma symptoms, meaning that there's an inverse correlation, meaning that resiliency is a protective measure in preventing people from suffering from mental illnesses and mental health issues. But unfortunately, resiliency has not been being focused on, modeled, or taught for the younger generations for quite some time now. Before we get into what this has to do with the anti-bullying movement, let me just go over a few glaringly horrific statistics about the mental health epidemic that we are currently in.
New this morning, a survey from Gallup shows an alarming increase in mental health struggles among college students. The report, released overnight, says 2 out of every 5 undergrad students experience emotional stress during college.
We're back 8:35, an eye-opening look at the nation's growing mental health crisis in our young people. According to the American Academy of Pediatrics, 1 in 5 children and adolescents have a diagnosable mental health disorder.
29%. Meaning around 1 out of every 3 U.S. high school students reported that their mental health was not good most of the time or always over the last 30 days. 1 in 6 U.S. youth aged 6 to 17 experience a mental health disorder every year. And 50% of all lifetime mental illness begins by age 14 and 75% by age 24. Suicide is the second leading cause of death among people aged 10 to 14. And if we look at some of the breakdown amongst demographics, we see that the annual prevalence of mental illness in the US among non-Hispanic Asians are at the lowest of all groups at 16.4%. Non-Hispanic Black or African American is 21.4%. Hispanic or Latino is 20.7%. Non-Hispanic white is 23.9%, non-Hispanic American Indian, 26.6%, non-Hispanic mixed multiracial is 34.9%, and lesbian, gay, or bisexual is at 50.2%. Okay? And I'm aware that these statistics don't tell a complete story of individual experiences and why certain mental health issues come to be in each individual. Mental illness is a complicated, nuanced topic with multiple layers, and it's not possible to draw direct conclusions or causations on any of these things, but we can find correlating factors tied to either an increase or decrease of mental health issues across the country. The mental health epidemic is a complicated thing. I do think that we've made one glaring, massive mistake. Something that's so fundamentally at odds with helping children develop one of the most crucial preventative skills and traits, resiliency. The anti-bullying movement started with good intentions, but the unintentional outcome has been a staggering decrease in resiliency amongst children and later adults. So let's look back a little bit at the history of the anti-bullying movement. There's no definitive start date, but based on the research, you can kind of conclude that it really became a political and societal focus around 1999, post the Columbine school shooting. By the mid-2000s, it had become a widespread cultural priority with federal involvement, specifically in the late 2000s and early 2010s. In August 2008, California passed its first cyberbullying law. By April 2011, 46 states had laws, with New Jersey enacting one of the strictest. And we saw that anti-bullying was embedded within pop culture. For example, Lady Gaga's Born This Way Foundation, established in 2012, and a lot of zero tolerance policies were spread across the country. At the time, there were some critics criticizing and noting that there was an overemphasis on punishment and less on resilience building. But no one really seemed to concentrate on that. I am definitely not criticizing the intentions behind the anti-bullying movements. I think we can all agree that the intention is good, or was good. And unfortunately, sometimes things can start with good intentions and have negative outcomes, and I think that's exactly what we're seeing. It's impossible to control the amount of toxicity that's online. We've tried to do it, it's just not possible. Sure, we see maybe child controls, parental controls on different platforms, but with the exponential rise of young people using phones, having access to social media, there's always a way for them to get around this. And when they do get around these guardrails, or even if they don't, but they're then exposed to the unprotected internet later on, they're not prepared for it, and it's not their fault. So the push for the anti-bullying campaigns started with this assumption that bullying was directly linked to school shootings and suicides. But what we see now are statistics that show a steady decrease in bullying around the country. For example, frequent bullying at least twice a month dropped from 13.7% in 1998 to 10.2% in 2010. By 2021 through 2022, we saw around 19% of students ages 12 through 18 reporting bullying, which is down from 28% in 2010. And this holds across all subgroups. And yet, 25 years later, with anti-bullying laws enacted in almost every single state, we're seeing higher reports of depression, anxiety, and other mental illnesses amongst children and teens, and suicide is the second leading cause of death. So if there is any assumption now to be made that bullying is tied to school shootings and suicide, the only correct assumption would be that there's an inverse correlation, meaning there's less bullying now, but more mental health struggles, suicides, and school shootings. Nobody wants their loved ones to be bullied. Nobody wants their loved ones to be hurt. But words don't always have to hurt us. And that's where all of this is flawed. This video is mostly about the anti-bullying movement, but we need to talk also about runoff campaigns and other social outcomes that branched out from this. One of those is the body positivity movement. Again, something with good intentions, in my opinion, but with negative outcomes. Body positivity was intended to be about self-love and reduced insecurity, but we've seen a sharp incline in cosmetic procedures, plastic surgery, and vanity. The body positivity movement put bodies and appearance at the forefront of every young person's mind across the country for many years, but told them to not care about it. When has it ever been a good idea to encourage any human being to look in the mirror more than we already do, even if it's to positively admire ourselves? We can't deny the mental health epidemic that is staring us directly in the face. There may have been good things that came out of both of these movements, and I'm not saying that there aren't, because that would be untrue, but we are seeing data that is showing inverse correlations between these movements and the failure of mental health in this country. Why do I think that this is happening? Well, the anti-bullying movement has led to a culture of controlling and punishing others while shrinking the internal locus of control amongst children. By trying to silence and punish others for being a bully, making insulting comments, the ability to exercise emotional regulation, mental toughness, and resilience is vanishing. The locus of control has been shifted from telling children that other people's words don't matter, that it has nothing to do with them, that their confidence has no bearing on what other people might think. And the shift has gone to, this person is saying something and it's actually so important that we need to shut that down and stop them from saying that, which I think subconsciously encourages people to believe that what other people are saying are actually valid, that if, my parents don't want me to hear this because it might be true, which is not the case. My parents don't want me to hear this because it'll hurt me, but they're not teaching me that I don't need to assign meaning to what this person is saying. That if I don't assign meaning to what other people say about me, then it won't hurt me as much. It's widely agreed upon within the world of psychology that having a strong internal locus of control helps lower levels of anxiety, depression, and increases self-esteem and resilience. By feeling confident that you can control how you feel, you can control your future, you can take action to make things good for yourself, enables people to feel a slew of positive things about themselves. Focusing on external locus of control is spending too much time teaching children that other people control their lives. Other people control their outcomes and their fate. We find that having a healthy internal locus of control helps with increased motivation, better coping mechanism, higher self-esteem, enhanced problem solving, and greater resilience. And the ways that this can be accomplished and taught to young people are through self-awareness, focusing on what you can control, teaching them how to identify things that they can control versus things that they can't control, and using their energy to concentrate on what they can, and celebrating personal wins. So none of those things, none of those techniques for building resilience and a healthy locus of control have anything to do with preventing other people from insulting you, sharing opinions you might not like to hear, maybe being mean. We can't be teaching children that that is in their control. What is in their control is their self-confidence, focusing on themselves, bettering themselves. When they better themselves, their confidence increases. Focusing on emotional regulation. Fixating on another person's words or actions and teaching our kids to fixate on that deprives them of being able to learn how to deal with verbal conflict and not take it personally. With or without anti-bullying campaigns, children And adults will be exposed to verbal conflicts no matter what. And we need to prepare our children for that reality. And a positive side effect, in my opinion, from building resiliency amongst our youth is also a natural decrease of bullying, because we see that children that are confident and secure tend to bully others much less. We need to help children become resilient. We need to help them be confident. And we need to help them understand what is in their control and what isn't, and to focus on what is. I get it. I was bullied a lot growing up. I'm a mixed race person. I have a schizophrenic dad. I had no friends. But my mom did a really good job at making me feel confident. And she made me feel like I would be okay regardless if other people liked me or not. And it gave me confidence for the rest of my life. No one wants to be bullied. No one wants to see their loved ones be bullied. But you can't control other people forever. But you can prepare your loved ones and give them the best tools to become resilient. I also just want to point out that there's definitely been an increase of online cyberbullying. And I think a lot of the bullying that at least I have been seeing has been politically fueled and coming from the radical left. There are just so many different examples of people bullying me personally and things that I see on other people's videos and content. And what I think is ironic is that these people that are so anti-bullying use bullying as a weapon against others because they think that it'll be hurtful. Because they were not taught resiliency against words. But I was. And I hope the generations to come will be as well.
Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me.
Wait, what?